Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Start Marketing Podcast. This is Joe Sanders. Thanks for joining us again on this marketing journey. As we do with every episode, I like to start off by explaining our strategy that we use as the overarching metric for our entire process and everything we do, and that's the 5 steps. And it goes something like this. Number 1, we encourage you to find the right audience for your marketing. Number 2, create the right content for your marketing campaigns. 3, promote your business as a brand always. 4, use ample resources when executing your marketing campaigns. And 5, analyzing the results to make sure you're getting what you paid for. Today, we're going to focus on something that has to do with step 2. This will be around content creation, and we're going to discuss the differences between images and graphics. We're going to talk about how to use high quality and low quality images when you're doing your digital marketing campaigns and how they both can help you be successful. And we're also going to talk about how to use text-based only posts or images to make sure that they're effective. And to join us today again, we have Jillian Kurtz to walk us through this. Jillian, thanks again for being on the podcast.
Hello, everyone.
I don't even know if I have to thank you anymore because I'm kind of forcing you to do this and work here. But I'm going to thank you anyway because, I think Jillian's getting a lot more comfortable doing this.
That's true.
So much better. It's great. Well, hey, let's dive into this. So, one of the things, if you haven't heard our previous episodes surrounding this, I would encourage you to go back and listen to the 5 steps. Each one we broke down. And when we got to step 2, we really talked about what kind of content you should use to create for your digital marketing campaigns. And, almost exclusively on digital marketing, whether it's social media or even Google these days or banner ads, whatever, you're going to be using some kind of an image, something that's going to be a picture of some kind. It's almost taboo nowadays to not do that. Exception, of course, being maybe Twitter or something where you're doing sort of a mini blog, with your Twitter posts. But when you're doing marketing campaigns, I think the number one thing that comes to everybody's mind is what's our post going to look like? And that typically means a graphic. That doesn't mean to say we don't use video, we don't use slideshows, we don't use contests and those other things. But visually speaking, I think graphics and images are where it's at today, at least in digital marketing. And I want to start with a distinction up front. There is a difference between graphics and images. Now, I should say, let me take that back. I'm going to say there's a difference between pictures and graphics, okay? Pictures is a picture that I took with a camera of something, right? A graphic is that picture that I took that's been manipulated with something that I've put on there. Or I've created something on my computer with just, graphic design tools or something. That would be a graphic versus like a picture or an image. And we use a lot of them in almost everything that we do when it comes to marketing. So I want to throw this out to Jillian. So Jillian, tell me, like, when you are trying to decide, should you use just a picture or should you use a graphic? Tell me kind of like how you determine which one you think will be most effective for a specific post or a specific campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess it depends kind of what your goal for that post is going to be. Not every post needs to look like perfection. I think kind of more raw images and pictures can give a hint of realism to your brand, and it can really showcase an experience and what to expect from your business, more so than a graphic. You can add wording and creative elements to really hit a message more. So if you are having an event you're going to give away free pizza slices, you want to create a graphic where the main wording is free pizza and maybe the date, and then the copy will translate all the other information you would need for that event. Whereas I would use a picture of someone at the event eating a slice of pizza to show the experience of that event. So It kind of depends on the messaging and the goal you have for that post.
Yeah. Right on. And a lot of it does have to do with that, because I think when you're telling a story, because a lot about what we're doing in digital marketing, especially on social media, is we're telling stories. I mean, that's basically what we're doing. And so from a standpoint of, it's almost like, what do we have in our inventory that's going to communicate that properly? Because you're right. If we take some pictures at an event and we get some really great pictures, some of them may not require much more explanation. Some of them we may just want to put like the logo on the bottom corner or highlight, something on there. But some of them may be so good that they will explode off the screen and people will connect with exactly what it is that we're trying to say. In other cases, maybe we have some really poor looking pictures, things that are kind of only telling half the story, or maybe we don't have any pictures at all and we have to get some generic pictures. In that case, I think that's the time when you and me and the rest of the team, we go into our graphic design tools and we might pull out some really cool looking text, modification or some icons or some emojis and get those on there so that we can actually make that picture look better than it actually is. But you're totally right. I mean, if I was promoting a neighborhood restaurant, look back to your pizza thing. If I was promoting a neighborhood pizza restaurant that was just some downtown, small town USA, having some really gaudy graphics, trying to get all these people to come there, that might not be what I need. What I might need is just some pictures of people eating at the establishment, because that's what I'm trying to sell. It's part of my brand. It's part of the neighborhood vibe. It's part of exactly what I'm trying to do. And so I think that, I think a lot of it depends on what you're trying to do. But I think people get sometimes overwhelmed by this and they think that they have to have like a degree in graphic design in order to do social media posts. Now, I know that, just so you know, Jillian is like phenomenal at this. She's really good at making graphics. She's actually better at this than I am. But I think almost anybody can do this. You don't need to be a graphic designer, though, to create some really nice graphics, right? On digital marketing, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's feeling like I can't do this? Is there any tools out there that you'd recommend that any lay person can use or anything like that would give somebody some confidence? Says you probably can do this.
Yeah. And I like to say, of course, graphic designers are important. And I think they are really good for larger projects like menus, signage, logos, and like creating your visual brand, or big companies that have the resources to always have a graphic designer on hand. But when it comes to like small or mid-sized businesses that might not have those resources, for daily social media management, like you said, there's so many tools that will help you create nice graphics. And with plenty of practice and time, you can create designs you're proud to post on your page. I really lately have been liking Canva.com. It's really popular. Right now, I think they have tools to make great videos. Animated posts are getting bigger. Regular graphics. You can put in all your own photos. They have nice design elements you can add. So that would be my number one recommendation. I've also used LucidPress in the past, and these are just programs you can even use through your internet browser. So you're not even downloading some sort of fancy software. You can just do it right on the internet browser that comes on your laptop. That's how easily accessible it is.
Yeah. And I know Canva has become really popular. That's a big one. So I'm going to make a confession to everybody out there of what I do. So I can make some pretty good graphics. I'm know enough about it to be dangerous. I don't use Photoshop at all. I don't use any. I actually still use Microsoft Publisher. Okay. And while that might be like, you're like old fashioned Joe, it's a tool that I'm really comfortable with. It can do a lot of things if you know how to use it. So I agree with you. I think there is totally a place for graphic designers. In our company, we don't have a graphic designer like on salary, like with us, but we do get handed projects from time to time throughout the year that we realize the scope of the project will require a professional graphic designer, in which case we kind of like bring in the ringer, we upscale it. We say, look, we're going to need to get somebody in here that's a professional graphic designer. Because what we do here, and again, this is what I think you're trying to communicate, is that what you're doing in the digital marketing, social media, you're doing marketing. Like that's what you're executing. It may require you to bring in a professional graphic designer from time to time to do things, but it doesn't always necessarily need that. But there are definitely times when you need that. But going back to what I said about Microsoft Publisher or Canva or anything like that, as long as you find a tool that you can use nowadays with the amount of technology that we have and the way that technology just kind of like runs our lives, even if you can like create like a PowerPoint presentation or, an Excel file, you could probably do pretty simple graphic design. It may not look as good as the way Jillian does it, but if you practice it long enough, you'd probably be able to come up with something. If you wanted to do, going back to your example, if you wanted to make a graphic that said like free pizza or a flyer, I think if you Googled something that had to do with it and you had no pictures and you had no idea what you were doing, if you use something like Microsoft Publisher or Canva and you found some stock photos of pizza and you're able to get the wording on there that you want, I think most people could probably get that C+ out of that, grade on their graphics. Now, of course, with what we do, we're always, striving for excellence and making sure that everything is, would be graded an A or an A+ along the way. But I do want to always encourage people that, remember, you are doing marketing here. How your graphics look, it makes a big difference. But it's the strategy by which and how you execute it that makes more of the difference. To reverse that, if you hired a graphic designer to make you the greatest pizza flyer, pizza graphic of all time, maybe it's amazing, and maybe it took them 10 hours to do it, and it cost you $1,000. If you took that and you put that and you said great, and then they handed that to you, and you just posted it on your Facebook page, and you didn't market it at all, nothing would happen. So you have to find that balance. So it's almost more important to focus on the marketing strategy aspect of things and making sure that your graphics and things that you're executing are quality enough to get by, I think, at times. But I don't think that it's always important for people to focus so heavily on making sure that everything is just, amazing, and then they'll get nothing out of it. Now, of course, if you're a huge company, or if you're a publicly traded company, or you've got a brand that everybody knows something, you need to, your brand is very valuable, and all of our brands are valuable, but in some cases more are going to be more valuable than others. And in those cases, like Jillian said, typically the resources are, in order for somebody to build a business to that point, should be there, that they have a graphic designer or multiple people on point. Some companies even just have brand managers. Their job is just to interpret the brand and make sure the brand is being executed across all platforms. Those of us in small to mid-sized businesses don't have that luxury. But I do think if we follow a marketing strategy and we kind of use our images and our pictures the right way, I think we can get it done. So let's talk about this, because Jillian, I'm going to pose a question to you. Let's talk about images for a second. Let's kind of get rid of graphics for a minute. Do all the images that you post on somebody's social media pages have to be high quality all the time?
No.
Tell me why.
I would say first that it's kind of even hard this day to get something you would consider low quality with the types of cameras that are in smartphones.
Good point.
So when I kind of think of low quality, I think of maybe something that wasn't professionally taken or with a keen eye. It's not the proper dimensions. It has bad lighting. The objects within it aren't positioned very well. So in those cases, I think a lot of time it can still be salvageable, and there's a lot of things you can do to manipulate it in post to make it postable to your page if it's not looking its best. Right. So you can adjust the lighting and the colors of the photo. You can crop out sort of the dead space to focus on what you need to. If it's like a small size, if the standard Instagram size is like 1080 by 1080 and you have like a 400, 500 pixel image, something I like to do is make the graphic the standard 1080 by 1080 size, and then I'll make like a collage, or I'll put the small picture within the larger graphic so I can still use it, but it's the proper size. Right. So there's a lot you can do to salvage something that would be considered lower quality if you can still find value within that photo.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, you're right. With the technology, again, but this is technology that we have. These phones are pretty amazing in what they can do. But but you're right. I mean, when I say low quality versus high quality, in my world, what that means is it kind of means difference between a produced and a non-produced image. If I'm having, like, we had a photo shoot last week and it was a professional photographer, lighting, it was all this stuff. It was very intentional. We had all this stuff that we were doing, took a long time. There was the pictures all had to be edited and things like that. Those pictures are going to come out. They're going to be perfect and be beautiful and be exactly what we want. Other times though, you may get pictures that are just somebody just took them and somebody may just send them to you on a cell phone. And a lot of business owners that we work with have no idea what they're doing when it comes to this stuff. Yet they send us pictures. They might text us pictures. They may be, like Jillian said, the wrong size, the wrong format, or whatever it is, but you can still get value out of that. I always want to tell people, if you go back and listen to about branding, if you go back and listen to our previous episodes, when we talk about branding, I always say, think of the 3 things you want people to think about when they think about your business. I'll say that again. I always want people to think about, what are the 3 things you want people to associate with you that you want them to think about when they think about your business? In almost all cases, it's quality. Almost all, in one form or another. It's going to be quality, whether you're a salon, a groomer, or a restaurant. It's going to be something. So you've got to make sure that as you're communicating your images and your pictures, that it's quality. However, there can be other things within your brand that you can communicate that can be done with a low quality image that will be maybe in some cases more impactful than a high quality, heavy produced image. So I remember an example, Jillian, of there's an Italian restaurant that we were at, and we posted a picture one time, and it wasn't a very high quality picture, but it had the old man who is the owner. I think it's the grandfather. I think it's like the owner's dad who started this from a long time ago. And it was just a picture in the kitchen, and it wasn't done intentionally. Nobody posed for the picture. It was just done with a cell phone, and they sent to us, and I think we threw it in there. We got a ton of engagement. People were going, why? Because they recognized the old man. They recognized him, and they knew that, whoa, this is a real picture taking in real time of this guy who started this business, 50, 60 years ago, working in the kitchen, right, during a shift, and he's smiling, he's doing whatever he's doing. And that's what connected with the audience of the people that were following the page. They recognized that, and they go, oh, it's different. It was unique. We didn't even do that intentionally, I don't think. I think we posted for another reason. But then we saw the engagement, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is great, because we're getting more engagement than we've ever gotten. And it was a low quality image, but it communicated this family run, bootstrapping, hardworking, genuinely friendly, lovely old guy, and what he's all about in this singular image. And it got us more engagement than we had gotten in a really, really long time on this thing, or maybe forever. And so that's the thing you got to remember, because that low quality image communicated the business's brand. Their brand was about, they're a family run business. That's part of what their branding is about, right? The service and hard work, these are part of their brand. And it communicated their brand in a way that you could almost not even do if you had this like overproduced graphic. I mean, sure, we could have gone in there and done a photo shoot with the old man and the son and all these other people, but I think that sort of raw image. Now, the other part of this restaurant, though, their brand is that they're incredibly high quality. This is not a Sbarro. I mean, this is a place where you sit down, the tablecloths, they make everything from scratch, they fly the fish in. So we would not encourage the business, nor would we execute a campaign. We were constantly posting low quality pictures. We would not do that, nor would we recommend that they do that. We would want the food, and I would say 95% of the stuff that we're going to put out there, or 90%, I would want it to be produced. I'd want a professional photographer. I'd want lighting. I'd want post-production and all the pictures and everything like that. But there are times when you can take those low quality pictures, fit them in with a really snappy message, and really connect with your audience in a real and raw way. And so I always want to tell people, like, don't be afraid of the low quality image. Don't be afraid of something that's just a lot. If it fits your brand, if it's unique, if it makes sense for you, then you should by all means go for it. And a lot of times you'll get more benefit out of that because it's real, and people will recognize the fact that it's real and it's raw and it's communicating what your business is all about. So I think that was good insight from Jillian. And yeah, right on. I think that we're both in agreement on that. Mm-hmm. I want to switch to this other thing too, because this comes up sometimes. People will say, hey, I want to, here's a message I want to get out there. I have, we did a lot of this happen with COVID. People they had a message they wanted to get out there to communicate this. And it bear the question or the argument a lot of times, do we need a graphic do we need a picture of some kind? We'll just say an image. Do we need an image of some kind with this? Or can we literally just go out there and type in this message and send it? So Jillian, if somebody was asking you this question, Jillian, I've got a message I want to get out. It's 3 sentences long. I don't need any images or anything like this. What would you recommend to somebody doing that is the best way to communicate an image, something that's just only text?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, my inkling is to always say no. I don't recommend that, especially in this day and age. Of course, there's always some circumstances and platforms where that's more acceptable, like Twitter you mentioned before, maybe LinkedIn too. But it's just much easier to interpret your message as a visual. So I would not recommend going to Facebook and just typing into the status bar and clicking post. I would at the very least suggest typing that out and putting it on a graphic and posting the graphic over it can be a just text, image, but I wouldn't recommend just straight copy and posting that, because that is just going to get lost in the oversaturation of social media. You want it to be easier to interpret, and it's also another way to continually build your brand identity.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would say the same thing in almost every case. If Facebook even has a real simple little tool in the post publishing tool, what do they call it now? Creator Studio? I don't know, like you change it all the time. But it used to be publishing tools or whatever it is, where you can literally just type in it's like, I think there's a limit, but it literally creates a graphic for you around the text that you type. And that is so much more impactful. And I say that because there's something called the 80-20 rule of digital marketing. And that is only 20% of the people that look at your social media pages are going to read one word on your page. 80% of the people that go to your pages are going to scroll through it. They're going to look at it, and they're going to see what images and graphics you have on there. And that's how they're going to interpret things. So if that's true, and again, that's just sort of a rule, it's sort of a tool, that we use. But if that's true and you're typing something in, it's just text. If somebody goes in there, the majority of people are scrolling through your page. They're not going to see that at all. It will not make an impact. But you're right. If you have something you want to say, I would always say, make it visual in one way or the other. Whether get a graphic, get an image. You can even get a stock image sometimes. Whatever you have to get, attach it to that, and try to get people's attention enough to read that, so that then they will see that and then they will read it, and they will be way more likely to read what you put into a graphic than what you just put into the text box. I think totally. And don't forget that rule. It's really important, because that 80-20 rule, applies to this big time, because if you have, because the other thing too is you may have a really great image and you may have a really long message, and your message might be way too long. It might be way too long. And if that's the case, now you have a really broken post. You've got your images and your graphics working the right way, but your text base that you're putting in there, nobody's going to read that. I mean, typically, how many sentences do you typically put into a post, Jillian, on average?
Probably like 3 to 5 sentences.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. That's about all people are really going to handle. Unless you really have something to say. Like I do, we did have these COVID things we had to communicate for COVID. And we did need these rather lengthy, hey, we're going to be open at this time, especially like some of our medical clients is like, okay, this is what you have to do if you want to come see us, blah, 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 blah. That is sort of the exception, because that's really important information that needs to be communicated, and people are going to read that because they have to, and they're going. But other than that, if you're just you should always try to keep your social media posts, I think, to one idea. And so when you're using images and graphics, and whether it's a high quality picture or low quality picture, or whether it's a text based thing, I always recommend people like one idea, like give it one idea. Communicate that idea, and then you can always go back and post other things or lead somebody somewhere else to communicate other things. This is kind of why, like when you go to Starbucks, or at least I don't know if you can anymore because of this COVID thing, but if you used to go to Starbucks, and I'll have to say this too, there used to be things called events that happened all over the community. Remember, you'd go to Starbucks, they'd have that bulletin board and it'd be full of stuff. It used to be It's the same thing with digital marketing when you're doing images and graphics. It's the same idea. You're putting something out there that you want people to connect their eye to, and that they will see enough information at the broad top of the flyer to read below. The difference, though, between your digital marketing posts when using those images and graphics and the real world is that when you're doing that in the real world, you can't link them to anywhere else. So you have to fill the bottom half of that flyer with tons and tons of information. Like, this is how much it costs. This is where it's going to be. This is who's going to be there, blah, blah, blah. In the digital world, you don't have to do that because you can link them somewhere. You can say, go to my Facebook event page, go to my website. So we always say, keep your graphics and your images simple. Keep your verbiage simple, right? And then link that people that want more information to go somewhere else so that they can get all the information that they need. That's a really good recipe for success in digital marketing. Some of this stuff may be fairly simple, but I can't tell you how many times we see these problems when people are executing on digital marketing, and then they wonder why this doesn't work. And then they wonder why companies like us come in, and not just us, but other companies come in and can do so well on their digital marketing or their Facebook page or Instagram page in such a short amount of time. A lot of it has to do with the way you're communicating. Not necessarily that your events are bad or your food is bad or your products are not good. It's just the way you communicate, right? So I feel the best way to do this, and Jillian, I'll let you speak to this too, is this last idea I want to just touch on really is this variable content idea and how that communicates. So I know you use this idea and this principle of variable content. Why don't you just explain that to everybody really quick, kind of what that is and why we do that?
Yeah, I think it's always important to make sure there's a variety in the content that you're posting. So we've talked about kind of like lower quality images and like higher quality graphics and all that. I think too much of one of the other isn't good, but if you have a variety, that's the sweet spot. I think kind of like I said before, we're kind of shifting to more appreciating authenticity and realism instead of like perfection in every post. I think we're trending in that sort of direction. And I think more simple, regular photos or lower quality ones can bring that to your page and to your brand. But I think too much of those, if that's all you post, can come across as like unprofessional or like you don't care about your brand. The same with the high quality pictures that we get from like photo shoots. It's good to have a nice catalog of nice photography to make the nice graphics and all that. But if that's all you're posting, I feel like it can feel a little bit artificial and too overly salesy if that's all you're posting. Yeah. So the goal is to always make sure that you're posting a variety of all this content.
Yeah, right on. Isn't it funny how everything comes full circle? Like when we first started doing this digital marketing thing, I don't mean us, I mean like just people in general. It was all about, oh, I got to have this really important, really impressive graphic. Graphics are where it's at. There was a time when, I think I could be wrong. I think there was a time you couldn't even put pictures on Twitter. I could be wrong, but I do remember like really early on, it was almost like, people didn't really do that. And Facebook, you couldn't post videos on Facebook, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. Now we've come full circle. We've done, now you can post your freaking, 3-hour, 4K film on your Facebook post. And now we've kind of come full circle back to how Facebook started and these places started where it was just people posting pictures of themselves. Businesses were just posting pictures of what they were doing. That's what's working. It's the same thing with streaming media. We all started with this thing where we were streaming media and it was, we were watching television and there was commercials and we were like, oh, great. And we had streaming media. Now we don't have to watch commercials anymore. Great. We can stream whatever we want. And now what are we doing when we're streaming media? We're watching commercials. You watch YouTube now, and it's like, it comes full circle. It always just comes back. Nothing new under the sun, right? Everything just comes flying back to us. And, but I think it shows to go you that, marketing really hasn't changed much. And the way you communicate with people, it's the same as how you would communicate them almost any other medium. And I think images and graphics it's still the most important way to do this. I think we are trending towards, I agree with Jillian and the fact that we're trending more towards realism in our posts. And I think video is going to take over this. We've seen that with TikTok sort of already. But I think images and graphics, especially for the small to mid-sized business, are still king and probably the number one most cost-effective way for people to market themselves. So hopefully this has been helpful. Jillian, thanks so much for your insight today. Super helpful. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast, please do so. There's a little button somewhere, no matter where you're listening, click subscribe. We put out this content fairly regularly, and please give us your feedback. You can find us at relevantelephant.net. Find us on Facebook or Instagram. Shoot us a message. If you have questions about your digital marketing, bring them on. We'd love to answer them for you. If you took the time to listen to us, we'd be more than happy to take the time to listen to you. Please get the book, Stop Posting, Start Marketing. It is available on Amazon in both in print edition and the Kindle edition. And I would really appreciate if you guys check that out. And that's what we got. So this is Joe Sanders for Jillian saying, stop posting, start marketing.